Before we get to the video, Bernie Sanders has been known for his progressive stance on foreign policy, including his views on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and the funding of Israel's military activities. Sanders has been critical of aspects of Israeli policy, particularly regarding its treatment of Palestinians and the ongoing occupation of Palestinian territories. Now off to this wonderful video of Bernie.
Mr. Speaker, here is the good news. A few weeks ago, the approval rate in Congress was 10%. It has gone up to 14%. According to a recent YouGov poll, 14% approve what Congress is doing and 68% oppose. And I would tell my friends on both sides that it's about equal. In terms of who people want to elect, it's about half Democrats, half Republicans. Now, why is that? Why do we have a 14% approval rating? Well, it might have something to do with things like we are witnessing today and the degree to which the Congress is completely out of touch with where the American people are. So let me read some other polls, not on favorability, but on people's feelings toward the role the United States is now playing in the war in Gaza. April 10th, Economist YouGov poll. 37% support decreasing military aid to Israel. 18% support an increase. And to my Democratic colleagues, I would say 48% of Democrats support decreasing aid, 10% support increasing aid. Then there's a March 29th poll from Axios Ipsos Telemundo poll of Latino people. 16% of Latinos said the United States should continue to support Israel with arms and funds. 39% said the U.S. should not be involved in the conflict. March 27th, Gallup poll. 36% of Americans approve of Israel's military action, 55% disapprove. Among Democrats, 18% approve, 75% disapprove. March 27th, Quinnipiac poll. Overall, voters oppose sending more military aid to Israel by 52% to 39%. 52% oppose more aid, 39% support more aid. Democrats, 63% oppose sending more military aid, 25% support. March 11th, YouGov, 52% of Americans said the U.S. should halt weapons shipments to Israel until it stops attacks in Gaza. So you got a whole bunch of polls. They differ a little bit, but they say pretty overwhelmingly that the American people do not want to give more military aid to the Netanyahu war machine to continue its horrendous destructive policies in Gaza. That's what the American people are saying. Earlier today, I tried to bring up two amendments dealing with the crisis in Gaza. One of them basically said that the United States should not supply any more offensive military aid to the Netanyahu government. I support defensive measures, the Iron Dome. The Israeli people have a right not to be attacked with missiles and drones. That amendment could not even get a vote. That's the United States Senate today. People overwhelmingly are in opposition to more U.S. aid. We can't even discuss this issue and have a vote. Mr. President, why are the American people as opposed as they are to more aid for the military in Israel? Well, among other things, it may have something to do with what some of the Israeli leaders are saying, and in fact, who they are. And I think the American people are catching on that what we have today in Israel is not the Israel of Golda Meir, Yitzhak Rabin. It is a government now significantly controlled not only by right-wing extremists, but by religious zealots. Mr. President, today, what we are seeing is a situation where Netanyahu himself has never favored a two-state solution, and he has made that very clear and has worked to systematically undermine the prospects for a deal. And I might mention that a two-state solution is the policy of the United States government. His party's, Netanyahu's party's founding charter, reinforced in the current coalition agreement, says, quote, that, quote, between the sea and the Jordan River, there will only be Israeli sovereignty, end quote. For many years before October 7th, Netanyahu told his allies in private that it was important to bolster Hamas to ensure that the Palestinians could never unify and form their own government. In January, in terms of the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, Netanyahu said, and I quote, we provide minimal humanitarian aid. If we want to achieve our war goals, we give the minimal aid, end of quote. The rest of the government, or many others in that government, is similarly extreme. At the start of the war, the Israeli defense minister declared a total siege, saying, quote, Israeli defense minister, we are fighting human animals, and we act accordingly. There will be no electricity, no food, no fuel. Everything is closed. End quote. Another minister at the start of the war posted a picture of a devastated area in Gaza, saying it was, quote, more beautiful than ever, bombing and flattening everything, end quote. Another Israeli lawmaker said, quote, the Gaza Strip should be flattened and there should be one sentence for everybody there, death. We have to wipe the Gaza Strip off the map. There are no innocents there, end quote. Several officials have openly talked about reestablishing Israeli settlements in Gaza. The current intelligence minister, among others, openly talks of permanently displacing Palestinians from Gaza. Israeli National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, who oversees the police, has long advocated for the forceful expulsion of Palestinians from the region. This is the current Israeli National Security Minister. Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich, responsible for much of the occupied West Bank, has likewise long expressed extreme racist views and has called for the expulsion of Palestinians from their lands. He has called for segregated hospital wards for Jews and Arabs because, quote, Arabs are my enemies, end quote. As a younger man, he was arrested by the Israeli authorities on suspicion of anti-Palestinian terrorism. That is the man who is the current Israeli finance minister. Mr. President, this is a significant part of Netanyahu's government. Those are some of the people whose war we are subsidizing. We can pretend to ignore all of this. We can pretend that today's Israel is the Israel of 20 or 30 years ago, but that is just not the case. And the reason I raise these issues and talk about some of the people in the Israeli government is to understand that what is happening today in Gaza is not an accident. It is a bringing forth, a doing of what many of these people have wanted to do for a long time. It should come as no surprise that this extreme government in Israel right now is not simply waging a war against Hamas, and Israel has the right to defend itself from the terrorist organization Hamas, but it is at war with the entire Palestinian people and fighting that war in a deeply reckless and immoral way. And that is why the Netanyahu government has consistently ignored President Biden's requests that they do more to minimize civilian casualties, that they be more targeted in their approach, and that they let more humanitarian aid in. And so, Mr. President, given the attitude and the beliefs, the racist beliefs of a number of people in the Netanyahu government, let us take a look and see what is happening today in Gaza.
Sanders has advocated for a more balanced approach to the conflict, often calling for a two-state solution that recognizes the rights and security of both Israelis and Palestinians. He has been vocal in his support for humanitarian aid to Palestinians and has criticized the Israeli government's use of force against Palestinian civilians, especially in situations where there is disproportionate harm inflicted. Regarding funding for Israel, Sanders has at times raised concerns about the amount of U.S. military aid provided to Israel, which is among the largest recipients of such aid. He has suggested that some of this aid could be leveraged to push for changes in Israeli policies, such as halting settlement expansion in the West Bank or improving conditions in Gaza. Overall, Sanders' views on funding Israel's military efforts reflect his broader approach to foreign policy, which prioritizes diplomacy, human rights, and the equitable treatment of all parties involved in conflicts. I personally think we can be harsher on the Israeli government and believe that the colonial settlement of Israel has to be reversed. The Palestinian lands have been taken away with force and false pretense. Well, I hope you like the video and give the channel a subscribe. Also, check out my other channel, Concise Chomsky, link is on the homepage and in the comments section. Thank you. Now, take care and bye-bye.